Good afternoon. Welcome to the North of Tyne Cabinet meeting. We are in North Tyneside, so thank you to North Tyneside for hosting us. We have apologies from Dame Mayor Redfern, Councillor Richard Wearmouth and Councillor Nick Kemp. I'd like to welcome Councillor Alex Hay, substitute for Nick Kemp, and Councillor Guy Renner-Thompson, substitute for Councillor Wearmouth. I've had no declarations of interest. If anyone observes anything, obviously do correct the record. And the minutes of the previous meeting on the 26th of September, is everybody happy with them? Just a nod, please. Yep. And then we had our extraordinary meeting, which was simply to give approval to the Secretary of State to lay an order in Parliament for the creation of the new expanded combined authority. And the minutes of that, is people happy with? Someone give me a nod. Thank you. Right, so the first substantial item is an update on our devolved adult education budget. I'll hand straight over to Councillor Karen Kilgour.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm delighted to be recommending this report today. It's now 3 years since the Combined Authority took control of the devolved adult education budget on the 1st of August 2020, and since then the government has devolved around 69 million to the Combined Authority, which has enabled adult learning opportunities to be determined at a local level, and we've successfully provided over 88,500 enrolment opportunities to date. The devolution of the adult education budget has enabled us to strengthen the strategic focus of skills provision across the Combined Authority area. We continue to build on our approach of creating close collaborations, bringing together employers, colleges, training providers, local commissioners and the voluntary community sector to construct a skills offer which focuses on achieving outcomes directly linked to local labour market needs. I trust you've all read the report, but a couple of things to highlight. Over 35,200 enrolment opportunities have been undertaken during the last academic year, an increase of 2,461 opportunities on the previous academic year. 19% of enrolment opportunities were delivered as community learning, providing a range of courses designed to engage residents, build confidence, improve health and well-being, including mental health, and breaking down barriers to learning and work. We continue to value the positive impact that informal community learning can have. It enables us to deliver targeted provision, the majority of which is aimed at residents who are most at risk of being left behind in terms of education and employment opportunities. 72% of enrolments were undertaken by unemployed residents, with 53% of these residents unemployed and actively seeking work. This is a 4 percentage point increase on the previous academic year. The adult education budget investment continues to most disadvantaged in terms of poverty and skills. 44% of enrolments are in the top 10% deprived wards across the combined authority area. 53% of enrolments are undertaken by residents with no or low qualifications. North of Tyne supported the delivery of over 7,200 English for speakers of other languages enrolment opportunities, and we recognise the vital importance of ESOL in terms of integrating residents in our communities to access for services and progression to work. A key priority for the devolved adult education budget is to extend the reach of learning opportunities to a broader range of underrepresented groups. An analysis of the profile of residents engaged in our provision last year demonstrates that we're achieving just this. 5,244 opportunities were undertaken by young people aged 19 to 24. 56% of enrolment opportunities were undertaken by women. 47% of enrolment opportunities were undertaken by residents from our Black and minoritized ethnic communities. And 7,757 residents participated in provision who had a self-declared learning disability or difficulty, a 2 percentage point increase on the previous academic year. I think you'll all agree they are really impressive figures. Of the 35,230 learning aims undertaken in the last academic year, 91% were completed, with only 8% withdrawals in that same year. We had 21,255 formal qualifications undertaken, and of those qualifications, 49% were at level 2, with 96% of completed qualifications achieved. We've received data confirming that over 2,000 individual residents progressed to employment following engagement with our adult education budget activity. So finally, our key priorities for the next academic year include continuing to work closely with our provider base to develop improved analysis of community learning with a focus on positive outcomes and value for money, working collaboratively to better respond to employer skills talent needs, specifically in the combined authorities growth and foundation economy sectors, and continuing to work closely with our providers to develop improved analysis of learner destinations with a focus on positive outcomes and progression, and continuing to monitor demand for our ESOL provision, working with providers to maximise the opportunities for residents in this area. And with that, and with those highlights, I am happy to recommend this report to Cabinet. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Karen. Would anyone like to make any comments on that report? Guy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's apt that Richard couldn't make it today, and I'm here because I'm the portfolio holder for Children's Services and Skills at Northumberland County Council, and I'd just like to say how much we value the working relationship with the with the combined authority. Look forward to that going forward. Jamie, you've been with us at the groundbreaking of the Energy Central Learning Hub in Blythe. Remember that day in the sunshine? You were there as well, Glenn. And it's things like that that are really going to push the region forward in the next few years. So, yeah, it's a fantastic report, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. You went through some very impressive statistics there, Karen. I'm not going to repeat them, but to summarise it, we really are making a difference. A lot of people talk about dealing with inequality. We're actually doing it, and getting people well skilled so they can earn more money. I mean, that's just a win-win for everything. We know if people are earning good money, half our other social problems disappear overnight. I was talking to a number of ministers yesterday, Treasury ministers, the Global Investment Summit, and I used the example of how we've increased enrolments for the same budget of the fact that you should trust combined authorities with extra resources. So a well done to you as portfolio holder, to all the team, because that's what enables us to get more money into the North East, which is what we're all here for. So thank you. So this is just to note the report. I'm sure Cabinet has noted the report. Thank you very much on that. And parallel report on the skills boot camps. Back to Karen.
Thank you, Chair. This is another really positive report. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the performance of the skills boot camps for the financial year 2022 to 23, and to provide an update on a proposal to the Department for Education for the delivery of skills boot camps for next financial year. Skills boot camps are one part of the government's National Skills Fund to help adults train and gain skills quickly to improve their job prospects. They offer free, flexible courses of up to 16 weeks for adults aged 19 or over who are either in work, self-employed, recently unemployed, or returning to work after a break. In March 2022, the North of Tyne Combined Authority received a grant funding agreement directly from the DFE for just over £5.5 million to support the delivery of Wave 3 skills boot camps for the current financial year. In February 2023, the DFE awarded us a second grant funding agreement of over £9.2 million to further support this delivery. And during last financial year, over 200 skills boot camps were delivered, engaging 1,467 learner starts across a range of sectors, including digital, offshore manufacturing, green construction, HGV driving, construction and skills for the culture and creative sector. There have been over 1,000 successful learners completions to date, with 660 positive outcomes, and these include entry into employment because of the skills bootcamp, or gained promotion or a new job role within a learner's current employment. Skills bootcamps have already engaged 552 learners since the beginning of this financial year, bringing the total number of starts over the first 2 financial years of delivery of the bootcamps to over 2,000 learner starts to date. Employer engagement is a fundamental element of skills bootcamp delivery, and to date over 340 employers are engaged in skills bootcamps across the region, either designing or co-delivering courses, offering job vacancies or co-funding existing employees. So our proposal for the next financial year, and in preparation for the transition to a North East Mayoral Combined Authority, we've prepared this proposal to send to the DFE for around £17 million to deliver skills bootcamp provision across the whole of the NEMCA geography. This addresses an imbalance of sectorial coverage in the south of Tyne compared to sectors covered in the north of Tyne geography. And there's a table in the papers, I think, which highlights that. If we're successful in securing a grant agreement for the DFE, we're proposing to invite a wide range of organisations and providers of skills, including further education colleges, independent training organisations, voluntary and community sector organisations, and other stakeholders, including employer providers, to tender for this funding. We view the allocation of funding to administer skills bootcamps in our region as an excellent opportunity to build on our approach of creating close collaborations to test, trial and co-develop coherent skills provision that adds value and secures positive outcomes for our residents. We also view this as another step forward in bringing together all direct funding for adult skills, including the flexibility to implement and lead a truly place-based response to the skills need in the region, packaging together the adult education budget, free courses for jobs and skills boot camps. And I would add, really, that we're talking about adult education and skills here in these reports, but I don't think we can ever see any of the work that we do completely in isolation. It's all tied together. This is all part of a truly inclusive economy, and this is all part of tackling child poverty, particularly, which is one of our priorities, because we know that children don't live in poverty in isolation. They live in poverty because their families are in poverty. And if we can help improve the outcomes for those children and their families by improving the skills base and helping their families and their parents into well-paid, secure jobs, then we have done our job. And I'll get off my soapbox now and recommend the report to Cabinet Mayor.
Thank you very much, Karen. Absolutely echo that. Any comments or questions on this? Yeah, Henry, please.
I just want to note for the record, it's in relation to the work that's being done for the next financial year, the really good close partnership between North of Tyne and the LEP and also our local authorities to develop that well. These things work as a partnership or not at all, and I just wanted to note that for the record too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Would you like to just come back?
I did, thank you. Sorry, Mayor. What I should have also done, it was remiss of me not to, is to thank the staff team, not just for the reports, which are always incredibly informative, but all of the work that goes into running these programmes. Lee and the team do an absolutely fantastic job, and I should have said that at the outset, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, I'm sure you'll appreciate that. Lucy?
Thank you. Both those papers were really heartening and thank you to everybody involved. And I was also going to say how much the LEP have enjoyed and valued the working relationship around the Boot Skill Camp in particular. It seems to me on the face of these papers that we're getting a lot of bang for our buck here, and I'm always just interested how we are faring if we were to look at other large combined authorities in other parts of the country. Are we sector leading here, in which case we should be shouting about this? Are we just behind? Is there a lot to go? And I think at some stage, I don't for a minute, Councillor Kilgour, expect you to answer my general musings on this, but it would be really helpful at some stage just to know how we're faring against others who started this a little earlier than us and what's the best practice. Or it may be that they are looking to us for the best practice. It would be great to know that. Thank you.
Well, it would be unchivalrous to comment on the performance of others, but since this was devolved to us prior to devolution, we were at 22,000 enrolments a year when it was managed by Whitehall. We're now up to 35,000 enrolments a year for the same budget. So when we're talking about an increase in value for money, when was the last time you saw Westminster increase anything by 50% for the same budget? So I think we've done very well indeed there. Henry, if you want to pick up on.
As a fan of evidence-based practice, and I don't have the league table in front of me, but what I can say is we work quite closely with the Department for Education as we're preparing for the new combined authority. Part of that has been a set of readiness criteria that we need to address as a region, which is essentially the department saying, are you credible enough to deliver and commission at the level that we're proposing? We've passed all of those criteria, and the consideration from government is that we've been able to do that well because we've hit the ground running. So I think it doesn't quite give you the compare and contrast, but it gives a sense of where we are, which I think is in a really good, incredible place, led by Councillor Kilgour.
Thank you very much. I think you know that Northumberland County Council has three key priorities, one of which is to tackle inequalities. And we have found that the work that we've done with a whole range of partners and the combined authority and our colleague councils has done a huge amount to raise that aspiration you were talking about at the beginning, to raise the confidence and to raise the level of ability and self-confidence that will allow people who may not have liked school and school may not have liked them to be able to move on and to have those things that every human being should be able to aspire to and should be able to achieve. So I think it's actually, we should be really proud actually of this because it's a very good joint effort. Party politics completely put to one side and working together with, as I say, with a whole range of partners. And I think the thing that I really like about this is the range of opportunities, the range of skills training that's been undertaken. It's really good, and I'm very proud to be part of it.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm sure the staff will be very pleased to hear that, and the team and all our partners, our delivery partners. There's a couple of things that are very interesting about this. The fact that it lines up a guaranteed interview with employers. The employers love that. The people on the courses love that. I went out and had a go driving a forklift truck on one of these courses and successfully parked it without crashing anything, moved some pallets around. But what's interesting is the people on the courses, they don't just get the course skills, they get interview support and career advice. And so that it's not just a sort of train them, get them out the door. It really is mentoring people to get the best out of it. And you've just got to look at the range of things in that report. I mean, green skills, creative skills, culture, construction, engineering, manufacturing, logistics, and digital skills. All key things that employers are short of, and it's getting people good, well-paid jobs. So, I can't see anyone else indicating. I think it's fair to say that Cabinet has noted that report. Thank you. So let's move straight over to Councillor Johnson, to do the report on the investment fund update and funding approvals.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to have been introduced a further £3.5 million of new investments by the combined authority. This includes £1 million of new UK Shared Prosperity Funding approvals and £2.5 million of additional investment fund commitments. This is on top of our £160 million previous funding by the North Tyne Combined Authority, with £124 million from the investment fund and 37 million of shared prosperity projects approved. The report provides an update on the good progress of both these programmes, and importantly includes projects that are making a significant contribution to objectives. Starting with the economic backdrop, as set out in the report, the UK economy continues to disappoint, with no growth over the last 3 months and none expected in the next quarter. And although inflation has eased, that's 4.6%, and remains more than twice the target. For most households, wage rises have not kept up with the increase of cost of living. In the region, our business report that economic conditions remain challenging, although they are more optimistic about the longer term. We have, though, seen some welcome news in unemployment, with the gap to the national average the lowest since records began 20 years ago. Since the Cabinet report was published, we have the open statement from the Chancellor, and this presented a sobering set of economic forecasts, with inflation coming down, but economic growth remaining subdued and unemployment likely to rise. Amongst the policy announcements which were made were a reduction in employees' national insurance contributions, although the overall tax burden remains high. Turning to North Tyne's investments, the first project we're delighted to present today is part of the Northumberland Line Economic Corridor. Cabinet will recall last year we approved an allocation of £10 million to support the investment along this corridor and to maximise the impact of business to communities. The railway line from Ashington to the city centre and the project support and works in and around the central station follows investment of £5 million agreed in May to replace the level crossing at Newsham with a road bridge, and proposals underway to support the works at One Spec Square in Ashington. The current project will deliver further improvements around the central station, making it more attractive to passengers, including a new entrance from Neville Street and pedestrianisation measures. These changes will improve access to the key public transport link, reducing journey times, enhancing the public realm, and increasing the attractiveness of pedestrian routes. These improvements are being made in tandem with other investments to the station, including the project supported by the North East Local Enterprise Partnership. I'd like to thank Lucy for her leadership and for the work of her team, including its close working relationships with the Combined Authority. This project is being brought forward by Newcastle City Council, with the North Tyne Combined Authority providing £2.5 million towards a total project cost of £3 million. The second project will support new business formation. The North East has a relatively low stock of businesses and a relatively low rate of new business startups. Making it easier for new businesses to get established was highlighted during the consultation we undertook as part of the Shared Prosperity Programme. Responding to this challenge, the project will provide specialist business support to 315 potential entrepreneurs who will receive advice, and 100 of them will receive small grants to meet some of the upfront costs which they face. The delivery of this project was undertaken by a consortium led by the North East Enterprise Agencies Limited. I'm particularly pleased that North Tyne is bringing forward the project in conjunction with our colleagues in Gateshead, working behind the scenes to join up funding despite the fragmented approach taken by government. The project is part of the wider UK SPF programme and will sit alongside other support for businesses, alongside investment in communities, employment support, numeracy, skills and investment in the rural economy, and good progress has been made with all of the UK SPF programmes agreed so far, with 2/3 of the total allocation received from the government now committed. We are aware of the importance that we all place in increasing the economic growth outcomes which these two projects are seeking to achieve, and therefore I commend this report to Cabinet and its recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Just while anyone else is waiting to see if they want to comment, can I just give a massive well done to the team for a heroic effort of getting the Shared Prosperity Fund all done, sorted, and so much money deployed in an incredibly tight time space of the timetables we were given from central government. Nobody is indicating to speak on that. So can I just say, actually, that thank you for the report, Carl. The Northumberland line is probably the best example of what the Combined Authority is capable of doing, because it, depending where you decide to start, if we start in Ashington, it goes through Northumberland, through North Tyneside, into Newcastle. We're investing in all those places. We, as a Combined Authority, are investing in it. Northumberland, obviously, have by far taken the lead on this, are putting in a fair amount of cash, as are we from the north of Tyne. I know Glenn and I have had to twist ministers' arms over the years to get this cash to come through, but it's going to make a big difference. I mean, the people in Ashington, for example, will be able to get into Newcastle in half an hour, and the people in Newcastle will be able to get to Ashington in half an hour as well, because there's every reason to go both ways. Any questions or comments on the report from anyone In which case, we have the formal funding retirements. Obviously, we know the progress. But do we approve the £2.5 million? Actually, that's already been approved, so this is going through as a delegated decision. Is that correct? So we're noting this as a delegated decision, but it's actually what was previously approved, the £2.5 million, and for the minutes, the £1 million for the UK SPF for business creation. Thank you. Right, this takes us on to item 9, the budget monitoring report. I'll hand straight over to Janice, our financial director.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second budget monitoring report for 23-24, so for the period ended 30th of September, forecast up to year end. The report is in the standard format, so setting out the position on the corporate budget and then indeed across the range of funds that we have available for investment. Just a couple of highlights to pick out. In terms of the corporate budget, you do see some increase on staffing expenditure against that we initially estimated. But that's a reflection of, I guess, increased activity in the organisation, in particular around net zero work, the energy hub and accelerator, so increased capacity to deliver on increased activity and responsibilities. So there's no bottom line impact, it's actually funded through grants and contributions. And then in particular on the investment fund, so up to the end of the September period, the cumulative spend was around 55 million against what is a total programme of committed expenditure, so including approvals and allocations Cabinet have made of around 154 million. So the ambition is by the end of this financial year to get £100 million of cash out the door. So not an insignificant target to achieve by the end of this year. But the bulk of projects are in place now, and I would fully expect that on the back of certainly the last 2 years coming through the impact of COVID and I guess the impact of the economic scenarios and the cost of living, we should see some significant spend in this second 6 months of the financial year in order to deliver against that plan. What I will say is the funding doesn't disappear should we not quite achieve the 100 million. It will move forward into the new mayoral combined authority when that is created, and those priorities already approved and prioritised will continue in the new combined authority. So just wanted to highlight those 2 points. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Janice. Do we have any questions on the budget monitoring report? No. So just to reiterate the points in there, the additional expenditure is because we're doing more work and we've got more money in, which is a good thing, more things happening in the region. And that £100 million is very targeted programmes. We've heard some of the examples already about how wisely we're spending this money and the actual impact it's having. So again, this is just to note this report and the Treasury Management strategy that goes with it. So, final item on the agenda. This requires just a little bit of explanation because some people might be wondering why we, as the North of Tyne, are involved in a budget setting process for an organisation that doesn't exist yet, and it is simply in order that we can begin the public consultation on it. It's not making any decisions as to what that future authority will choose to spend its money on, and to make sure that we are in a position to be able to employ the staff. So I'll hand straight over to Janice now, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, an unusual situation in creating a draft budget for an organisation that doesn't actually exist yet. But clearly Cabinet are well aware that Cabinet already agreed earlier this month to the consent of the making of the order that will progress, hopefully, the creation of the new combined authority. So it is necessary to create a budget that allows the transfer of staff and the continuation of business come the 7th of May. At a very headline level, the budget has been prepared in consideration of development of the corporate plan, a draft corporate plan which is attached, but also that approach to bringing 5 organisations together. We often refer to them as the sum of its parts, moving into the new combined authority. So the corporate budget is just that, the bringing together of the 5 operations as they currently stand at the moment, with a small amount of adjustment for intercompany activity, if you like, but then a relatively small recognition of some additional capacity required to deliver additional requirements in terms of delivery. So in particular around the scale of the adult education budget that will be available in 24-25. I think what the report also does is give everybody a picture of the indicative funding streams available for investment in the next 12 months. So as you will see, it sets out that continued delivery of the priorities that North of Tyne Combined Authority has approved, brownfield housing and the early capital being those activities that are in train now across the LA7 area, and then a range of adult education budget and skills budget where additional funding, one of which we've just been talking around in terms of the boot camps. So a very simple picture that sets out the range of funds that we will have alongside indicative transport funding. So kind of close to £388 million next year, which is not an insignificant sum for the new combined authority to deliver. We are working to secure borrowing powers. There are arrangements that the powers will be set out in the current order that will allow the combined authority to immediately secure borrowing through negotiation of a debt cap. That will not be done lightly, as you would expect. It will be done in an affordable, prudent manner, and would always come back to the new cabinet for consideration should borrowing prove the right thing to do. And then just finally, in terms of reserves, as you would expect me to say, we will keep a close eye to how reserves evolve as we move towards this financial year end, and consider an appropriate risk profile in the new mayoral combined authority. Bearing in mind it is different to a local authority and the level of risk in delivery of services in local authority service delivery, whereas a lot of the risk we manage in a combined authority is through the funding streams directly themselves. So what I wouldn't expect is to see a big risk reserve needed for the organisation moving forward, but we'll keep an eye to that. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for anyone? Yeah, Lucy, please.
Thank you. This is not a criticism in any way whatsoever. This paper came out last night, and I couldn't access it until this morning. Therefore, I haven't had a chance to read it. And I'm sure there's nothing controversial in this at all. And I'm sure that the general direction of travel is agreed by everyone. So perhaps a little bit more about the more general consultation about this for the constituent bodies that will become part of the organisation would be terrific. And I suppose I'm making a very small, gentle pushback about this because as the business board, when it becomes part of the larger combined authority, it's a way how we will work in the future. And we will want to have, I say we, it may not be me, but we for the moment, will want to have that ability to input in good time. It's not a criticism because I absolutely appreciate how hard everyone is working.
Thanks, Lucy. It might be worth, just the process that's arrived us to get here and then the process that goes forward. It's not setting...
I guess I can start. Henry may want to come in. I guess knowing that there has been, already quite a lot of consultation around devolution per se, both LEP-led engagement with the business community, Henry and others at a raft of events across the region, and recognising that in the development of the corporate plan and the portfolio plans, the draft plans, is how we've come to where we are. Clearly some engagement will absolutely continue over the coming weeks and months. Absolutely, and I guess I'm acutely aware that I will get direct challenge, I guess, questions in overview and scrutiny around consultation with the public in particular, and that's not easy kind of engaging on this kind of topic through with the public. It's slightly different in terms of the impact that we have and how they understand what a combined authority delivers, but absolutely understand and will continue to engage appropriately. I am at the LEP board on Thursday and we'll take them through the drafting as well.
Just to add a couple of points, and a totally fair and good question, I think. So I would emphasise the sequencing of some of what we've done here, in that the preparation of a draft corporate plan and a budget has to come after the endorsement of the draft order to lay in Parliament, which didn't happen until a couple of weeks ago. So to an extent, we are constrained by the governance timeline within the region. That's not to say that we don't want to be as open and expose as much of the process to sunlight as possible. So chief execs of each of the organisations in scope have been involved in this process. We'll absolutely go through the consultation in the open way that Janice has just described. And then ultimately this will need to remain flexible because, as we said in the introduction, until a mayor and cabinet is sat down within the new authority, nothing can be finalised until that point anyway. So there is a degree of flexibility in the process, which I hope will serve the purposes that you set out. But fair question, and I hope we'd want to engage with that really positively.
That's really helpful. And just for the record, so everyone is clear, the input that we've had from Henry and Janice and others at the LEP board throughout this process has been tremendous and well above and beyond the call of duty, and we welcome you on Thursday.
Lovely. Yeah, so I also haven't had a chance to read this properly. I suppose just a couple of questions. First of all, where does this document go to next in terms of all the members of all the constituent authorities? Do they get to see this? The second question is around. I don't understand on page 6 on table 1, I think it is, the cost of capital. I don't understand what the cost of capital can be. So if you could explain that, I'm sorry, probably a really stupid question. And then the third question is around other grants, reimbursements, contributions. That includes Transport of the North East. Now, I don't know whether the Transport of the North East is a voluntary body that you sign up to and join and pay a contribution to. That one's raised specifically. But as far as I'm aware, leaders haven't actually made any decisions yet as far as voluntary contributions are concerned. And certainly they would be presumptuous to kind of think that we might wish to join and make any voluntary contributions to anything until we've discussed it properly, I would have thought. So those are the 3 questions. Sorry if they're not particularly intelligent ones, but I've done my best.
Thank you, Chair. I think in terms of the first one and the cost of capital, that substantially is the Tyne Tunnel costs of capital. So borrowing that's been done through NECA for the costs associated with the improvements at the Tyne Tunnel. And that's actually paid for through, when you look at the income side, the fares, etc. Yeah, so that was that one. In terms of contributions specifically from the 7 local authorities, there is absolutely no assumption built in here of increased contributions. So the plan includes that the initial budget proposals is a static level of contributions in line with those that each constituent authority is currently making. So there's no plan included in here for any increased contributions from the local authorities as it stands. The TNE contributions is other contributions that go into Transport North East, not necessarily specific to local authorities, but wider contributors to the activities of Transport North East, which is TNE.
That's helpful. So certainly there would be some discussion from Northumberland anyway around this subject before we went too far down the line in terms of contributions. So it's really just this excellent document. What are we going to do with it?
So the report is published. as you would expect, on both North of Tyne's normal route of publishing papers, and the leadership board of NECA also is meeting at this current time as well. So the report will be published through NECA's publication process as well. Working with the team on how we do some more, I guess, public-friendly publication of the information that's in this report in terms of that public engagement. I've absolutely shared it with the LA7 treasurers. I've worked with the LA7 treasurers in terms of the development of the report and its contents. There is nothing to stop them sharing it with their constituent authority members in its entirety, should each local authority wish to do that.
Well, I would have thought it's something that all members of all the councils involved, plus the key partners as well, would be interested in seeing and understanding, and therefore, can we do that?
Happy to take an action, Chair, to liaise with the 7, come up with some drafting and circulate the report. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Can I just check for a couple of points of clarification which came out of that discussion? The levies are those that have currently been agreed by the Joint Transport Committee. Yes. So there's already been that full governance process. It's not the case that Janice has just come up with this. This already has it. And so for those who don't know, the Joint Transport Committee has representatives of our 7 local authorities who are coming into the new CA, for the benefit of anyone watching at home. The only thing that's actually being agreed is in effect, the staff budget and those sorts of costs. The allocation of what we might choose to spend it on after May is entirely down to those who are elected at that point, and we have no comment to make on that in this forum. That's also correct, thank you. One point I would like to draw attention to is the exceptionally healthy position that we are handing over as the North of Tyne. We have no borrowing, no debt, and substantial assets, including the £10 million in the Venture Capital Fund, which will return assets to NEMCA. So we're handing over a really good position there. Right, I think our discussion has been very helpful. Thanks for bringing out those points. Lucy.
Well, I can't let that one go without just adding, and of course the LEP will be handing over some great assets, reserves, the outcome of the enterprise zones, and so on. So that goes into the piggy bank as well.
Yeah. It is all in the report. You're absolutely right. It's an incredibly long report with an awful lot to get the heads around. But this is the result of the work with all of the local authorities. It's not North of Tyne team solo effort. Right. Okay. Well, let's look at these. Do we agree the corporate budgets as I've described and quantified there? Yeah. Thank you. And the overarching delivery budgets, item 2, bearing in mind that of course is going to be subject to results after May when the organisation is created. Thank you. And the other 2 are to note the levies, as I described, they've been through the Joint Transport Committee, and the reserves position, which Janice has also alluded to. We can note them. Thank you very much. The next meeting will be here at North Tyneside Council, 30th of January next year, 2024, at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody.